Welcome back to Squawk Box. Former Theranos CEO Elizabeth Holmes is on trial defending herself against 12 counts of wire fraud and conspiracy to commit wire fraud. CNBC has obtained thousands of private text messages between Holmes and her COO and then boyfriend, Sunny Balwani. Now, I want to get straight over to CNBC producer Yasmin Khorram, who's been in the courtroom every day of this trial and obtained these text messages. So tell us what's in them.
Andrew, I obtained thousands of text messages between Elizabeth Holmes and Sunny Balwani. These text and Skype messages span from 2011 to 2016, which we know is when their relationship, both personally and professionally, ended when he left Theranos. Let me paint a picture of what these text messages show about Elizabeth Holmes. They show she was a very confident CEO. Let's take the first example from 2014. Elizabeth Holmes texts Sunny Balwani, "Total confidence in myself. Best business person of the year." Sunny responds to her, "Awesome. You are listening and paying attention." Another example, Elizabeth is boasting about the money that's flowing in from the Theranos investors. She texts Sunny, "Just finished calls. Alice Walton in for 50. Alice Walton is, of course, of the Walmart fame. The Walton family ended up investing about $150 million into Theranos. Sunny responds to this text message. "They are not investing in our company. They are investing in our destiny." That, of course, is a much different destiny than what ended up happening. As you mentioned, they're fighting a dozen charges, very serious charges, and potential prison time. I do have to add that I did reach out to attorneys for Balwani and attorneys for Holmes. They declined to comment.
Okay, so Yasmin, what does this tell us, though, about her and her defense case in terms of how she's going to want to paint herself? Does this help or hurt her?
You know, it could go both ways. These text messages paint a picture of Elizabeth Holmes that we all knew, a cool, confident CEO. But I have to tell you, Andrew, that it's completely different than the Elizabeth Holmes we are seeing inside and outside this courthouse. I've been covering this case for 3 years, and she has been silent. We throw her questions outside as she's walking in. She ignores all of them. In fact, I've jumped in the elevator with her and her attorneys before and tried to chat her up, and she doesn't say anything. Their MO is clearly to keep her silent, which is a complete contrast to the Elizabeth Holmes you and I saw just years ago, making the media rounds, appearing on every magazine, appearing on these television networks. It really begs the question, who is the real Elizabeth Holmes? Andrew?
But Yasmin, does the timeline go to the point where any of the text messages say, wait a minute, you're telling me that this doesn't work and that the entire technology that we built the company on is a fraud? Is there anything like that? I mean, confidence is great, but is there any indication that she knew that it was all built on a house of cards? None of it was real. None of that?
They do talk about some issues with their Edison blood testing technology. They don't text about anything related to fraud, but they do mention about issues within the company. They mention about some exits of employees. They mention about some turmoil within the company. They talk about the former Wall Street Journal reporter John Carreyrou and him, talking to these employees within the company and how they can squash that. They do bring up these issues, but
did the CEO not know it doesn't work? Maybe the CEO didn't know that the technology didn't work. Is that would be my defense, I guess. I don't know.
There is the paper trail that shows that she was aware. The government has introduced evidence that shows.
There's nothing in the text that betrays the idea that she is nervous at any point or anxious at any point that the technology isn't working or that they have to use these other testing machines to verify or in some cases just do the test unto itself?
Yeah, there's text messages that show that, they were worried. There's one that Sunny sends to Elizabeth that actually came out in, government testimony that said the Normandy lab is a expletive disaster. So they knew that there were issues, definitely.
Hey, Yasmin, I've seen some of the text too. The defense that we've heard at this point is that Sunny Balwani was the one who was controlling things, and that she was under his thumb with some of those things. The text that I've seen certainly didn't bolster that case.
Yeah, it definitely does. And that is going to be probably one of their defense strategies. We all saw the bombshell documents that were unsealed a few weeks ago. Elizabeth Holmes is claiming some very serious things. She says that Sunny Balwani abused her both mentally and physically. It's allegations that Sunny Balwani categorically denies. I looked through, 600 pages of these text messages, and what I saw were text messages between two individuals who are in a relationship. But again, these messages are only one piece of the puzzle. And as you guys know, this is a very big puzzle. And it's going to put, if Elizabeth does take the stand, it's going to be a monumental moment, because we really have not heard from Elizabeth Holmes, her side of the story.
Shepard Smith here. Thanks for watching CNBC on YouTube.